What's up, guys? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more of our videos. Also, make sure you follow us all over social media so you don't miss any of our content or show announcements. LakersSuns. Almost as bizarre as the game last week. The Suns come off to a great start in the game last week. They're cooking. They're hitting every shot they take. Lakers got off to a similar start in the first quarter. This one, they take an 18-point lead. Anthony Davis is just cooking everybody. And then the Suns go on their big run, and they kind of slowly walk the Lakers down. The second half turned into much more of a back and forth type of game. The Suns really put on a pull-up jump shooting clinic in this game. They made 13 pull-up jump shots. That's the most they've made in any game yet this season. They went 11 for 21 from the mid-range, so well over a point per possession on mid-range jump shots. That's obviously like a great sign of just elite shot making. Kevin Durant was surgical down the stretch of this game. He hit 3 mid-range jump shots in the final 4 minutes of the game. That's always the scariest thing with Phoenix, right? You end up in a close game with them late. They just have such a shot-making advantage, right? And even if you do everything right on defense, they might just hit shots and you might just lose, right? Like we had a game, the first game of the season, where the Suns stole a game from the Clippers just because KD hit a completely smothered right shoulder fadeaway over a double team. So like that's some of the reality of the threat that Phoenix presents to teams, right? I want to talk about Ryan Dunn for a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about the Suns in the big picture in a second, but I want to talk about Ryan Dunn for a second because I think he only played like 15 minutes, but he was everywhere in the minutes that he played. He helps to swing the physical dynamic of this matchup into something that's more manageable for the Suns. So like the Lakers have won coming into last night, they had won 4 of their previous 6 matchups against the Phoenix Suns because of a specific matchup problem. They're just so much bigger and stronger in the front court. So then the Suns have this issue where it's like, if they play centers, whether it's, last year Nurkic and Eubanks or this year it's Nurkic and Plumlee, the Lakers can just spam pick and roll because Nurkic, Plumlee, and Eubanks last year couldn't really switch onto good perimeter players, right? So when they spam pick and roll, it's just like whether it's AD and Austin Reeves or it's AD and LeBron or it's AD and D'Angelo Russell, the Lakers can just consistently get to their comfortable kind of like shot attempts that they get in ball screens. And then if the Suns go small and they go with a bunch of perimeter players and Kevin Durant at center, then all of a sudden it's like Anthony Davis and LeBron James just start bullying in the post because maybe they can find somebody to guard LeBron, but then AD goes off, or maybe they find someone to guard AD, but then LeBron goes off, right? And it just turns into a physical mismatch in the front court. Ryan Dunn dramatically increases the physical profile of their lineups, both with centers on the floor and without centers on the floor. And it just makes it so much tougher for the Lakers to bulldoze them the way that they do. How many times in this game did you see Ryan Dunn stonewall a big man rolling to the rim or end up on an island against LeBron James? LeBron tries to power through him and he just holds his ground and plays physical defense. I love that quote that I heard from the Suns broadcast from Kevin Durant talking about how his favorite thing about Ryan Dunn is that he commits fouls. And he talks about how like young players that come into the NBA are like timid and don't want to be physical with the existing pros. And like Ryan Dunn just like commits fouls. And that to me is like a competitiveness on the defensive end of the floor. I actually run into a similar issue with the high school kids that I coach, right? Like I'm a grown ass man. I'm 6'6", I weigh 230 pounds and I play basketball all the time. So like when I'm going against high school kids, they're at a huge physical disadvantage against me. But like most of the time when I'm trying to play against them, whether it's just like a little bit of fun king of the court at the end of practice or whatever it is that we're doing, the guys like don't want to touch me. They don't want to be physical. They don't want to like play defense. But there are a handful of guys that have come through that program in the 4 years that I've been coaching there who like, they don't care that I'm older. They don't care that I have a lot more experience playing the game. They're like, screw this. I want to try to win whatever it is that we're doing. So I'm going to be physical. I'm going to try to defend. And there are a couple guys that come to my mind in the time that I played. And those guys tended to be higher level players in our program because it's a way they're wired. It's a physical competitiveness. It's a willingness to get dirty. It's a willingness to get into a rock fight. And Ryan Dunn, you know, he has a high foul rate. He commits almost 7 fouls per 36 minutes to start the season. And that's going to be something that keeps his minutes somewhat limited until he can be a little bit more picky with it. But like, he is a legitimate athletic weapon that the Suns can unleash on their opponents. Not too much you can look at the box score last night. He only had 7 points, 1 rebound, and a steal and a block. But I thought he was dominant in the minutes that he played. Another part of it too is he just takes a lot of hits. Like if you allow him to take a lot of the hits on those rolls, in those drives, in those post-ups, that alleviates wear and tear that goes on Kevin Durant over the course of the season, on Royce ONeals over the course of the season. It gives you the ability to go smaller without being as physically limited. There's so much upside to Ryan Dunn's growth this year. And again, like, he's scoring at a rate of 19 points per 36 minutes when he's on the floor. That's really good. He's shooting 52% from the field and 44% from three. He's converting spot-up possessions at 1.33 points per possession this season. Some of these shots he's hitting are contested. He had a couple contested corner jump shots last night. Like, he has transition athleticism, that awesome, like, kind of slaloming reverse layup that he had. Like, he's turned himself into a useful offensive player. And that's just, I mean, you could make the case he should play more. The Suns closed with Plumlee and Royce ONeals yesterday, and I get it. Like, AD had been torching Royce ONeals in the post, so Budenholzer went back to Plumlee to make sure they had enough size to match up with AD. And Royce ONeals also, like, just is a little bit more, like, sharp in the drive and kick game than Ryan Dunn. So, like, for instance, Royce ONeals had a really nice, like, closeout attack where he hit a floater in crunch time. His big shot in the game last night, right? Like, that game was close. There's a lot of different ways that could have swung one way or the other. That was a huge shot that Royce ONeals made, like, driving the closeout. But there's a case to be made that maybe Ryan Dunn should have started or closed that game at the 5 instead of Plumlee, right? Like, with how bad their centers have been, there's a case to be made that that's the type of direction that the Suns can go or should go at times. But most importantly, Suns fans should just be very excited. When you get that kind of quality rotation piece in the late first round like that, that's a huge win for your franchise. Overall with the Suns, still a bit inconsistent with their offensive approach. Everything still swings on their willingness to make simple reads and try to, like, play advantage creation, advantage extending, play finishing basketball versus two-man game, like, just kind of like focusing on shot making, right? Like, they're at their best when they don't settle and they get advantages, expand advantages, and get wide open catch and shoot threes and layups, right? Last night, they were at their best when they were skipping the ball and pick and roll to those weak side 2-on-1s, or when they would draw ISO double teams from Kevin Durant. So the Lakers were getting picked apart by just basic guard screens for KD that was getting D'Angelo Russell onto KD, and then KD would either score on D'Angelo Russell in single coverage or draw a double team, and they'd work it around and end up getting a wide open shot. But, like, I thought KD just did a wonderful job managing that dynamic in crunch time yesterday as he just completely picked the Lakers apart. But so far, for the most part, in the aggregate, the Suns have done a good job. They have 69% of their made baskets so far have been assisted. That's a huge increase from last year, and I think that's going to be the biggest indicator of their success. They can keep their assist percentage in the high 60s. That, to me, is a sign of them playing with the right offensive approach. And they still haven't really got Devin Booker going. He's off to a slow start this year. So, like, there's still a level that they can get to on the offensive end. Couple of impressive wins in a row for the Phoenix Suns. The Mavs and the Lakers are, in my opinion, two very good playoff teams, and the Suns got them both. On the Lakers front, kind of an interesting reversal of lineup success last night. Like, throughout the first 3 games of the season, the LeBron-led groups with AD off the floor have been kicking butt and have built huge leads for the Lakers that they've been able to ride to wins. But, and then the AD groups with LeBron off have been less good. They've been actually a very slight negative. I think they were going into last night like -2 per 100 possessions, right? Last night, it was the AD-led groups that were completely dominant, and the LeBron-led groups were just hemorrhaging leads. And for the LeBron-led groups, there were like 2 driving forces behind that, in my opinion. One, the young players for the Lakers last night had their first really bad decision-making game. Like, Dalton Connect, I thought, took some really bad shots. He took, like, a bad transition kind of running shot that wasn't open against Bradley Beal. He took a heavily contested early shot clock 3 on the left wing. Like, one of the things with Dalton Connect is it's like, dude, you're getting guarded like you're a lights-out shooter. So even if you're not necessarily getting lots of shots up, you are doing a lot to help the team. So don't feel the need to just shoot for the sake of shooting. Be aggressive when it fits within the flow of the offense, but at the same time, like, trust that what you're doing is helping the team generate space, right? And then Max Christie, like, I've been talking about this forever with Max. Like, Max is a really interesting defensive player. He's talented, but a couple of things. Even though he gets good contests on jump shots, he doesn't bother the base or the pocket enough. So there's just going to be I talk about this all the time, like, real NBA scorers, they don't care if a hand's in their face. they professionally make shots with hands in their face. You have to find a way to disrupt their rhythm before the shot. And so Max has a lot of possessions where he's like this, getting a good contest on somebody, but the shot goes in because he's getting bumped off and his base is not strong enough to really like disrupt the offensive player's base. But that to me is just a athletic limitation. That's not something I really get on him for. To me, it's the fact that every time he puts the ball on the floor, he gets like a little worked up on the type of shot that he's looking for. He drives with the intent of doing something for himself, whether that's like the big one yesterday, he kept trying to dunk on everybody. It's like, dude, you're not going to get a lot of like athletic dunks over Mason Plumlee and Kevin Durant. They're 7 feet tall. And Mason Plumlee, there was a play where Jackson Hayes was wide open for a drop off and he tried to like dunk on Mason Plumlee with like no runway, no advantage, no nothing. He got absolutely smothered. The Kevin Durant one, it's like, yeah, okay, you were there. You had a little bit of a step. You could have gone up and finished on KD, but it's like, that was a contested rim attempt versus one of the better rim protecting forwards in the league. Just move the damn ball and make the right play and try to make something happen. So the young players for the Lakers definitely had their first example of like not showing poise when they went on the road last night. But for the record, Lakers fans got to get used to that. When you've got really young, inexperienced players in your rotation, it will be consistent that they are inconsistent, right? Like that's the thing. Like there's not going to be. Veterans are really good at finding what works and replicating it, finding what doesn't work and cutting that out, trimming the fat. Young players will like do something that works twice, and then instead of doing it again, they'll do something different. Or like they'll do something that doesn't work and they'll keep doing it. Like the young players always struggle to kind of differentiate between that process on a possession by possession basis. And so some of that you just got to get used to. But by far, the biggest factor in those Laker units struggling was that LeBron just played one of his worst games as a pro. He was just 3 for 14 from the field, just 11 points, absolutely no lift or burst at the rim. So I'm kind of looking at that as a silver lining for the Lakers. Like LeBron played the worst game he'll play all season, and the Lakers had a very good chance to win the game on the road against a good playoff team in the Phoenix Suns. So like, and the exciting part too is Anthony Davis just continues to look like an absolute monster. He's making a legit push in the early part of the season to try to enter into that top tier superstar tier with Giannis, Luka, and Nikola Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now he needs to maintain that level over a much larger sample. No one's going to give you that credit over 4 games. These are guys that do it for 60, 70 games a year, right? But through 4 games, 33 points, 12 rebounds, 3 blocks per game on 64% true shooting. Just an absolute monster everywhere on defense. Made a couple insane defensive plays last night. He blocked Kevin Durant twice, including smothering him at the rim once. Anthony Davis is insane. One last note on the Lakers. In the last 2 games, their personnel limitations have been on display. With the Kings consistently attacking D'Angelo Russell with DeMar DeRozan down the stretch of the game. Just in general, their lack of guard athleticism and how they really struggle against really fast guards that can get the ball moving both in transition and in dribble drive situations. That was abundantly clear. And then in the Suns matchup, same sort of thing. Like if KD was going against Gabe, they had at least a fighting shot. If KD was going against Austin, they had at least a fighting shot. If KD was going against Rui, it was at least a fighting shot. When D'Lo was out there and they got D'Lo on a switch, it just felt like a bucket or a foul every single time down the floor. And that's 2 games in a row where D'Lo is getting relentlessly picked on. And like some of this is like JJ's doing a lot more switching with D'Lo. But here's the thing. If you don't switch, you've got to do things like hedge and recover and double team. And those are areas where D'Lo's lack of effort and his inability to cover ground in rotation can be an issue. So like the thing is like, as much as I like D'Lo and as much as I think he does so much good for this team, and he really is an offensive weapon, and the Lakers have won a lot of games because of him. A big part of that early run in this game when the Lakers took an 18-point lead was D'Lo. I'm aware of all of that. But when push comes to shove and things really slow down in the half court and they're playing against good teams, D'Lo brings a unique, deadly damaging combo, which is 1, he's relentlessly attacked on defense, and 2, his offensive game doesn't really seem to consistently translate when it gets really physical, really intense against good teams. It's a lot of like in the free-flowing parts of the game where he has success or against teams that aren't particularly big and athletic. on the perimeter. Just time and time again, whether it's Bruce Brown kicking his ass in the Western Conference Finals, or it's him going for 0 points in a first round game against the Nuggets last year, just routinely in these really big, important physical games, he just struggles to do enough offensively to make up for the fact that he is by far one of the most limited defensive players in the league. And so like, to me, like, even though I think the Lakers are a serious team, and even if they don't make a change, I think they win 50 games this year as long as they stay relatively healthy. The Lakers are good. This is something I've been consistent about ever since the late January this year. They are not going anywhere. They're not winning 4 playoff rounds until they get an upgrade at that 2 spot with D'Angelo Russell. And we'll see how that shapes out over the course of the season. But those limitations have been on display over the course of the last couple games.